on. 2 years after playing in London, the Packers will play a second game outside of the U.S. The NFL announced yesterday that Green Bay will be the Eagles' opponent for the first ever game in South America. It's taking place in Brazil, September 6th, one night after the traditional season opener. Now, about the matchup itself, it features two of the NFC's top quarterbacks in Jordan Love and Jalen Hurts. Last season, Hurts had the edge in wins, but Love threw for more touchdowns, yards, and had fewer picks, and went deeper in the postseason. We have Kimberly Martin.
Hello, hello.
Joining us, matching the vibe of everybody on set.
And the nails, yes.
Yes, of course. Kmart, I'm going to start with you. Would you rather have Love or Hurts this season?
This was tough for me because y'all know I love Jalen Hurts, but I actually would rather have Jordan Love. And it's not because I'm down on Jalen Hurts. I just think based on you start with me already with the thing?
No, I just said you love Jalen Hurts, but you're choosing Jordan Love.
Yes, because this isn't
you
about.
Love him too, doggone much.
It's not because I'm down on Jalen, but I think we already know what the Packers are. They are a young, ascending team. They are a team with a very young roster and a quarterback who came into last season having to fill the shoes of a future Hall of Famer and having to answer the question of whether he can be the guy. Forget about being Aaron Rodgers. Can you just be the guy right now? And Jordan Love, as Christine, you pointed out, he had more touchdowns than Jalen Hurts. He had more yards than Jalen Hurts. And he went further in the playoffs, right?
Ooh.
So this season.
The stupidity. I don't think I'm going to be able to keep doing these shows when it has these people on here, because when they make such absurd statements like that, like he went farther in the playoffs, he threw more touchdowns and this and that, like what are we talking about? The year before that, Jalen Hurts was an MVP candidate, would have gotten an MVP if he didn't get hurt, and then went to the Super Bowl and then balled out, had one of the best Super Bowl performances in the NFL history. Not even an opinion. Look it up. PFF. This past season, he was obviously injured. Had an OC and a DC who was a disaster. Both fired. And in the playoffs, A.J. Brown was not playing because he hurt his knee. And Jalen Hurts dislocated his finger. So, like, what are you talking about right now? It's just absurd. And I love Jordan Love, and I think Jordan Love's going to be a great quarterback. But the disrespect is insane to me. Insane to me. And to use the logic that you use, if you want to get to the answer of Jordan Love, that you'd rather have Jordan Love over Jalen Hurts, I'm totally open to that. But give me better reasons than he threw more touchdowns, more yards, and mark this, and mark that. Like, what are you even saying? The Eagles had one of the hardest schedules in the NFL. The Packers did not. The Eagles were coming off of a Super Bowl appearance. The Packers didn't even make the playoffs. So what are you talking about? The Packers were playing with house money. They had the youngest team. So the expectations for the Eagles were to get to the Super Bowl again. So, I mean, get out of here with this nonsense. I mean, like, seriously. I mean, it just makes no sense to me. Also, why don't you look at total touchdowns? Why don't you look at what else Jalen Hurts has done? And Jalen Hurts was injured last year. He had a terrible OC that was fired, and he had a bad knee that most people thought that he was going to get surgery this offseason for. That's how bad it was. So, again, you can get there and say that Jordan Love is better. You can give me some reasons that you think the potential is there, that the ceiling is higher, that he's a little bit more mobile, a little bit more agile, a little bit bigger and stronger, so he can endure the physicality of, the NFL. I could say that. If you want to say he's got a better arm, like whatever arguments you want to use, I'm more open to. But if you just want to compare last year's stats to that, I mean, that just makes no sense to me. Under that logic, Baker Mayfield and Brock Purdy and, Russell Wilson, they did better than Patrick Mahomes. So I guess I'd rather have Baker Mayfield than Patrick Mahomes. Who would you rather have right now, Brock Purdy or Patrick Mahomes? Anyone who says Brock Purdy is a liar. And yet, Brock Purdy technically had better stats than Patrick Mahomes. He just did. So it's just insanity to me that that's going to be your argument. This is just an absolute clown show of a segment. So I'm going to try my best to let it. There's only 1 more minute left of this specific segment, so I'll just let it play. But first I was like, I'm going to let this whole thing play. But I can't. It's just insanity.
When I look at the teams, I have a lot of questions about the Eagles.
Oh, some good stuff there, Kmart.
Goodbye. I'm going with you. We gonna start. You sing. Because that chair.
Turn the chair.
Because that chair.
Because
that chair.
Equation there.
Okay.
Some good stuff now. Jordan Love had a phenomenal season. Led his team to the playoffs, went into Dallas, boat raced the Dallas Cowboys. But we aren't too far removed from a guy named Jalen Hurts being a massive MVP candidate of the National Football League. And when I look at what they have coming back, 2 number 1 wide receivers, because you have to factor that into the equation, right, on who you're choosing, who's around them, a very solid offensive line. They just signed Saquon Barkley at the running back position. I believe Jalen Hurts, in the way that he approaches the game, he's not satisfied with the way he played last season. So I think he's going to step up even more this season in 2024 and be very dynamic, so much so in the manner that we've seen him in 2022. I really do believe that.
I wonder if 2 years ago was the peak. And if that was the peak, maybe we can work our way back up.
Do you think your peak was getting to a Super Bowl and being an MVP candidate? Yeah, that is called a peak. Patrick Mahomes' peak was years ago when he threw for 10,000 yards. It's like, what are we talking about right now? I mean, you guys throw around these words. Like a quarterback pretty much almost always has one of his best years early on in his career. Then you kind of float around this, right? But there's different ways of winning, and we see Patrick Mahomes is winning Super Bowls when he's not throwing for 500 yards a game here. So this idea of saying, I wonder if a couple years ago was the peak. If his peak is to be an MVP candidate, and who he would have won the MVP if he did not get injured, and was literally left the field in the Super Bowl, tie game, scoring a touchdown himself, and then the 2-point conversion himself, and having the second best performance in Super Bowls, if that's his peak, then that's really good. Like, what are you talking about? What more do you possibly want him to do in that regard? I mean, just look at his face is stupid. I mean, the whole thing, it's just like, some of this analysis is just so asinine to me. Like I said, if you want to make an argument that Jalen Hurts is not that good of a quarterback, or that he's a pretty good quarterback, but like he needs a great team around him, blah, 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 I'm more open to that. Although I still push back at this nonsense of like, well, he has a great team. Everyone needs a great team to win. Stop with this narrative that these quarterbacks can win without a good team or without good coaching. Patrick Mahomes did not win with a bunch of lawn chairs and tabletops here, okay? He had Travis Kelce, okay? He had Andy Reid. He had arguably the best, at the very minimum, second best defense in the entire NFL. Okay? So, like, what are we talking about here? Not to mention, like I was talking to in the comments yesterday, Patrick Mahomes also has only beaten bad quarterbacks then, okay? Jimmy Garoppolo, Brock Purdy, Jalen Hurts. He seems like he's only beaten up on these quarterbacks that are just not good enough. And the only good quarterback that he played against, Tom Brady, he got destroyed. Now, that's not my argument, but if we want to play this game, those are the arguments that we could throw out there. So I just reject all of this. I just think it's absolutely absurd. And again, I think Jordan Love is going to be a great quarterback in the NFL. I'm really excited for him. I was cheering for him. You can go back in time and watch the things that I was saying about him going into the playoffs. Jordan Love, to me, for the most part, has arrived. But to discount Jalen Hurts because he had a bad knee and had a terrible OC that got fired. I don't know what you're expecting him to do in that situation. You take away some of his mobility. You have an offensive coordinator who does not know how to call plays or design plays. I don't know what you. And then he goes into the playoffs and has a dislocated finger and is missing his number one option in AJ Brown. And you want him just to like magically just overcome all that and ball out on a team that was giving up in the first place, where they knew, okay, we don't have what it takes this season. We ran out of gas. I mean, Jalen Hurts has the record for the most wins, consecutive wins against a team, against winning teams with a winning record. That's Jalen Hurts. Jordan Love doesn't have that. Jalen Hurts has the second best win percentage, behind only Patrick Mahomes, above Tom Brady, of coming from behind down by 10 points. That's Jalen Hurts, not Jordan Love. Okay? Jalen Hurts has proven that he can compete at the highest level and step up, and truly step up, when the lights are the brightest and the moment is the biggest, aka the Super Bowl. Jordan Love has not proven that yet. I think he can get there, but he hasn't proven it yet. Only so many quarterbacks have proven to be able to truly step up when the lights are the brightest, when the moment is at the biggest stage and we need you to ball out. Right now, listen, I'm sure I'm going to forget someone, is Patrick Mahomes, Stafford, Jalen Hurts, technically Aaron Rodgers, but he's past his prime, and Joe Burrow. You can make the argument Josh Allen, but it was not in a Super Bowl, so it was earlier stages, but he did step up. He did ball out when the moment was the biggest at that moment of his career, against the Chiefs. So I would kind of grandfather him into a degree. But then I fear that I would have to give Trevor Lawrence that, for having the comeback against the Chargers, and I disagree with that. So I'd have to potentially leave Josh Allen on there, although I believe Josh Allen has proven that. But that's it. I'm trying to think of any other quarterbacks off the top of my head. Like I said, I'm probably forgetting, someone, but that is a real deal, because that is what we call out the Dak Prescotts of the world. Brock Purdy played a good quarterback, had a good Super Bowl. It was not great. It was not amazing. The truth is, if Brock Purdy played 10% better, the 49ers win the Super Bowl. That's just a reality. That's how close it was. If he just plays 10% better, they win the Super Bowl. They don't. The Chiefs don't even get the ball back to tie the game up. Now, I don't put the loss on Brock Purdy. Make no mistake about it. I am not putting the loss on Brock Purdy. And Brock Purdy showed to step up in the NFC Championship game and the game before that, but not the Super Bowl. Jalen Hurts proved to step up in the Super Bowl. And do not come to me with, well, he fumbled in the Super Bowl. And Patrick Mahomes has thrown 5 interceptions in all his Super Bowls. He threw a terrible interception against the 49ers. Quarterbacks turn the ball over. I don't know who needs to hear this. They throw interceptions. They fumble the ball. It's what happens. And even with that fumble, he still had the second best Super Bowl. So it's just the audacity for them to say, I'd rather take, Hurts, and you're just going to say because of last season. It's just the dumbest thing I've ever heard. And then this idea of I fear we've seen the peak. A couple years was the peak for Jalen Hurts. Yeah, if that was the peak, then that is really damn good. What are you saying here? Are you saying that was the peak, meaning he can never get there ever again? Because what evidence do we have of that? What possible evidence do we have of that? Under that logic, Patrick Mahomes can never do what he did in 2019. He just can't ever get there again. Life's been pretty good for Patrick Mahomes. Sheesh. But those are just my thoughts. I would absolutely love to hear yours. Who would you rather have, Jordan Love or Jalen Hurts? Let me know in the comments below. I read every single comment. So whether you agree with me or disagree with me, either way, let's get in some discussions. Let's get in some fights. But ultimately, let's just have some fun. And please do consider subscribing. We are building an amazing community here, and I would absolutely love to see you part of it. I want to build something that we all genuinely feel connected to, something that we're really excited to be part of, and I think we're well on our way to doing it. Thank you so much, and see you next time.